The breakup of a relationship can be emotionally devastating. And we know that we're not at our very best when we're going through a breakup. So today we're going to talk about the do's and the don'ts of getting through a breakup. I'm Dr. Christy Wise, and this is Life Sauce.
So we were talking about, let's start with the do's.
Yeah, the do's. Well, the reason why it's important, let's start with that, because, we're definitely not in our best mental state. Even when we're the ones that are being I'm the break-upper. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Not the one being the broke-up-y or whatever, but we're just in a weird state. And so if there's anything that you can use as an anchor, like I should probably do this or I should probably not do that, that's the point of this. And this comes from our course, Breakup to Breakthrough, and the book.
And I feel like when you're going through that, your internal sense of what I should do and what I shouldn't do is all kinds of messed up, and you kind of need an external guide.
Oh, for sure. Well, and the worst part is we know, like, intellectually what we should and shouldn't do, but emotionally we don't give a fuck, so we end up doing all kinds of stupid shit that actually even sometimes cements the breakup instead of, trying to win your partner back or whatever it is. So just because we know it intellectually doesn't mean that we're... Oh, my God.
Maybe we can get sponsored by shot callers.
Or dart guns.
Yeah. The Nerf guns aren't working anymore.
We need to up the ante.
Or get the airsoft guns.
Yeah, well, that's okay. We'll let people know that we have dogs.
Yeah. Let's start with our first do.
Okay. Yeah. So the very first thing I suggest is that people work on their way of thinking. This sounds silly, because we're now thinking about thinking, but it's the truth, because when we're upset and unraveled, we don't always have all the clarity of thinking clearly. And that's why we overeat or overdrink or whatever it is, because we're just looking to soothe ourselves and maybe even stop some of those negative thoughts.
So is this a more broad idea of thinking, or is this the way that this person thinks about themselves? Because, a lot of times people think, I'm never going to find something like him or her, or it's over, I'm going to be alone forever. Or is it going to be thinking about your partner?
Right.
They were this, they were that.
Yeah. Well, both. But let's focus on the idea that we tend to romanticize our exes, like that they were this and they were that. And like you said, I'm never going to find somebody like that. They were my person. And we tend to forget the negative things and overemphasize the positive things,
And this is assuming it's not like a, fuck them, I didn't need that, I'm better off without them sort of kind of breakup.
Yeah, for sure. It's more like the woe is me, I'm heartbroken, I want them back kind of, But even the fuck them, we can even look at that, but that's more of a don't when we get to that point, like obsessing over negative things or trying to get even or retaliation, all that stuff. We'll talk about that in the don'ts. But for the do's, what we're really wanting to focus on is being able to be realistic in your memories and assessment of them. So I have one homework assignment in the course and it's a painful one because, we don't want to just write lists of what's negative about a person, but when you're over romanticizing somebody, it is important to balance that with some kind of realistic thinking about them.
Now, how do people do that?
So I would say for a week, I would have somebody sit down and write a list of the negative things, the things that they, if they had a wish list, they would not choose in their next partner. The things about their partner that were realistic, that way they're not always just thinking about all the good things. We're trying to kind of manage that fantasy and romanticizing with some reality.
And are these going to be things that were just like kind of leading up to being a part of the breakup, like the deal breakers, or is it everything from like, it just kind of bothered me the way they chewed,
Yes,
random things like that?
Yeah, no, it's important because I mean, even something like food, it's like, we love this food. That's our favorite restaurant. I can never go back to that. Those kinds of things we tend to over romanticize. But if you were writing that list about food and you said, he eats too fast, he eats with his mouth open, he always eats off of my plate, he doesn't ever share, that would be a more realistic assessment of how this person eats. Mm-hmm. And yes, at the same time, you love the same food, you love the same restaurants. Does that make sense? Like balancing it with what's real.
And what are we doing with this list? Does it just get put on a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror that you see in the morning? Or?
No, you post it on their social media. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. That would be a don't.
Slander them.
Oh, yeah. That just right. Yeah, slander them. Yeah, put it on a billboard in Las Vegas on the side of a building. That's my favorite. Anyway, so yes, no, this is just purely to balance the fantasy thoughts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And have even a more realistic view of your attachment to them. Because even if you weren't like, I see this all the time, couples really take each other for granted, and they're like, oh, thank God she's off with her friends for the weekend and I have the house to myself, and all of a sudden she's gone and he's like so attached he can't breathe without her. Like the attachment level changes when you're in that state. Yeah,
and I feel like that kind of ties into the other half we were talking about, like thinking about your ex versus thinking about yourself. Where it's, if you don't realize how attached you are, then it's going to be hard to gauge where you are in that relationship. And subsequently, when you break up, it's going to be even harder to realize how strong those emotions are going to be.
Yes.
Because if you're like, oh, I was never that attached, and the breakup happens, and you also get blindsided, like, oh, fuck, I did need them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and what's important about that is attachment. And in our course and in the book, we talk a lot about attachment and how it shows up or manifests during a breakup. Because if you're somebody who has an insecure attachment and and then you feel abandoned, you're going to be incredibly anxious. It's like that's the type of person who ends up feeling like they're being a stalker. Because they're having a hard time. There's anxiety around that attachment or loss of, Anyway, that's attachment. But so let's talk about more of the do's. Another one is to talk. And this is a hard one because it makes some friends cringe. Like, oh my God, it's all she does is talk about the breakup and blah, blah, blah. We don't like to feel like we overburden or overwhelm people. But it is important that we get it out and that we process it in the most meaningful way,
Is it, if you're trying to not burn someone, or if your friends are getting to the point where it's like, oh, they talk too much, is talking into the void the same as talking to a pair of ears?
Talking to a pair of ears is different, because there's warmth and empathy and care and, you know what I mean? But I would suggest for those people who are being talked, the friend or whatever, that you help the conversation evolve. The problem is the talking about the same thing over and over and over again. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I also feel like if I have friends or clients and we're talking, but it's evolving, they're discovering things about themselves or things that they need, or then you feel like you're a part of something. You're sharing somebody's growth with them.
Yeah.
So if you're going to support somebody in talking, you want that talking to evolve,
And then if you are talking and rambling, are there some guidelines? Is it just like a vent? Let me spew out the emotions I'm feeling so that they can be out there? Or is it I need to talk about like the list that I wrote down, or I need to talk about what I'm going to do now?
Right. Well, it could be both. One of the things I also recommend is writing. And some people hate to write, but I'm going to tell you how cathartic and useful it is. The main thing I want you to know about writing is you spew and spew. You don't worry about the grammar. You don't worry about the language. You don't care about the spelling. You don't give a fuck, huh?
I said you might not.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you would. You would obsess. I know you. Like you would probably start over if you were writing and you weren't happy with the, sentence structure. But but the idea is to just go all over the place in any direction you need to go. That is the venting, really. And then in terms of sharing that, maybe there are relevant things, or somebody who is working with you or a friend reads it and they see certain themes in it. You know, like, boy, you've written 12 pages and 60% of it is about feeling abandoned. Let's talk about abandonment. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, and you can really see it with some perspective, even for ourselves. That's why sometimes it's so valuable to go back and read your own diaries or your own journals, especially when you start looking for specific things like themes, you know.
So for talk or write, basically just getting it out, it's best to give it to a pair of ears, whether it's a friend or ideally probably a professional.
Yeah.
But it is also uniquely advantageous to write it down and be able to reflect on it. To
Yes.
either have yourself identify themes or have someone else identify some sticking points that you might not be aware of.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing about that is sometimes when people feel like other people are going to read what they write, they modify what sounds better. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to say this or they want to say it like that because they don't want to sound a certain way. You know, so I would prefer that people just.
Oh, Roscoe.
Oh, honey. Oh, my God.
Roscoe,
Honey, what?
we'll be right back. Yeah, we're back from our unexpected dog break.
Fucking dog. Oh my God. Okay, so let's talk about another do, and that's putting you first. So, you know, when somebody breaks up with us, or we even break up, we go through a period of feeling insecure. You know, I'm not young enough, pretty enough, rich enough, tall enough, all the things, you know. I'm not, for the guy, you know, my dick isn't big enough, she wants something more, whatever it is, for whatever, you know. And so the idea of taking care of you and self-care, and it sounds very hokey to guys, like self-care is most important. But the reality is it really is, right? Because it is the one thing that when we start to feel like we can have control over something, and we can control how we're caring and loving and honoring ourselves, there's some power in that.
And so is self-care uniquely defined for everyone individually, or is it like most people respond well to treat themselves to a yummy treat like food, or buy that thing that you've been wanting recently? Like, what is self-care?
Yeah, well, I think there are some basics like health and wellness. You know, when you are going through a breakup and you feel down, you know, even your neurotransmitters are all kind of fucked up. You know what I mean? You feel humdrums or depressed or whatever it is. So basic things like exercise, eating clean, you know, some of the feel-good things, red wine, dark chocolate, you know, things that will increase some of that dopamine and serotonin so you naturally feel lifted by that. And it does the... You know, it's like a twofer because then you also feel good about yourself because you're out there getting, you know, activity and sunlight and things like that. By the way, there is a lot of research on connecting with the earth and mood. So when people are feeling down, even though they don't feel like going for a walk or going for a hike or going for a run or putting their feet in the grass or in the sand, it really is highly recommended.
Nature helps.
Nature helps. It does, you know. But then we go through like our last topic about over romanticizing. You go to the park that you guys used to hang out and you'll never, you know, like it could be a going down a rabbit hole, like a vortex. So you want to do something that's really intentional about self-care.
And to be careful that you're doing things that are good for you, not necessarily that you want to do, because you might be tempted to reminisce at the park that you used to go to, or this was our spot.
Yep.
You know, our drive-in movie theater still a thing.
Yeah, yes,
you know,
for sure.
Don't, even though you might want to, that's not self-care, that's
torturing
yourself.
Yeah, torture. Yeah. Well, you know, and then there are things that I would see or somebody else might see as self-care, but it can work against you. Like, so for me, going to Nordstrom and trying on shoes and clothes is very therapeutic. However, if one of the reasons why your partner left is because you're financially irresponsible and you go and you charge up all your credit cards because you're thinking you're doing self-care, you could see how that would be like a double whammy. You know.
So if you are someone that let's use the retail therapy example, who it just seems to work consistently. It doesn't need to be a bunch. Maybe it's a pair of shoes. You know, whether it's $50 to $90 or whatever. A pair of shoes is a normal, regular people pair of shoes is going for.
I'm like Christian Louboutin tennis shoes.
Where do you go from there? How do you discover new self-care strategies?
Well, I mean, so basically what we're talking about is it's treating yourself. And that is different than self-care. Yes, I think you should treat yourself. You know, people can be so rigid with themselves. I don't ever eat French fries. I don't allow myself to do that. But if there's something that's soothing that would be a treat, like give yourself a break, for God's sakes. Yes, treat yourself. You know what I mean? It's like if you don't usually spend money or the time to go on a staycation or something like that, you know, sometimes it's really nice to just treat yourself.
And I think it's important too to kind of think about what we were talking about earlier, where you're being realistic about the previous relationship. Because maybe you were in a relationship with someone who was just like the hermit, like a dragon just sitting on their pile of gold. Like, you spend too much. Maybe they weren't spending enough. And if you're realistic about it, maybe, you know, going and getting that pair of shoes isn't breaking your bank and whatnot. Like, it's very dependent on what the context was that led to the breakup. Totally.
And that, you know, that doing something kind to treat yourself would bring us to another of the another one of the do's, is to give yourself a break. You know, if you aren't exercising as hard because you're feeling down, or you know, you do let yourself treat yourself and buy the shoes, that you don't go punish yourself, that you just really, we're kind of trying to be gentle with ourselves, you know, and give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room here.
It's interesting that you say that, not to bring up memes all the time, but when you're saying not to work out harder than usual, I feel like from a guy's perspective, usually you see the exact opposite, where it's like, there's a bunch of memes where it's like, oh, I wonder what this dude's listening to, and it's just nothing in his earbuds, and his friend's like, oh yeah, he just got broken up with, and the dude's like, gonna go do a 1 rep max without a spotter because he just doesn't care anymore, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and that's true. Yeah, the overdoing it even too. But at least he's gonna probably go home and feel better about his body, or, you know, he's gotten out some of that nervous energy and stuff. But I find that, you know, a lot of people fall off their normal routine. Like they just don't have the energy to, or they, you know, whatever it is. But that's where we have to just kind of give ourselves some grace. And that's kind of opposite of what we are saying about self-care. So if what we're saying is that's really important during a breakup, but yet I'm saying give yourself grace, it's really finding that balance for you. You know,
and it's finding that balance, something that's just trial and error. Does it help to have someone like you know, during the are they still called the Special Olympics?
Yeah.
Where when you have a blind runner and they have like their guide next to them that runs with them.
Yeah.
Do you need that guide, or is it just something where it's like, let me just keep kind of bouncing into the guardrails of a kid's bowling lane until we get to the end?
Yeah, that's actually a great analogy, by the way. You know, if you know yourself, if you know that you respond or react a certain way to, you know, pain or to sadness or whatever it is, then part of caring for yourself is getting a really great support staff, like those people around you that support you, knowing who you are, you know, the right therapist, the right coach, the friends that will really hold you, you know, to what they know you're committed to. But if you're somebody who needs the privacy to bounce off those guardrails, then you honor that, you know, but there isn't just a one size fits all kind of thing. You know, but certainly knowing where your weaknesses are, it's good to have people support you.
Sounds like some things need to be tried, and failure is inevitable, but that's not a bad thing. Just adapt and adjust.
That's exactly right. Adapt and adjust is well said. That brings us to healthy distractions, right? So it's, you know, it's easy to ruminate.
Find her best friend's Instagram.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, like, you know, to obsess over their social media, which is probably the number one easiest thing for people to do, and that people do. And there is literally nothing that feels good about it. If they do nothing, if you look at their social media and they've posted nothing, then you wonder what they're doing, who they're with. If they're posting and they look happy, then you're upset because they look happy and they don't look destroyed like you feel. You know what I mean? It's almost like it is a recipe for disaster, but yet it's hard not to because it's so easily accessible. You know, so a healthy distraction is huge.
Facebook needs, when you change your relationship status from, you know, in a relationship to single, they need to like temporarily block whoever you're in a relationship with.
Totally.
Not
Like
your choice.
Yep. Yeah, that would be amazing. It's like a healthy timeout. It's almost like how they implemented the seatbelt laws. Like, because people weren't, I hate to say this, smart enough to protect themselves and wear seatbelts. So we literally had to write a law for the silly people that wouldn't think of themselves or care for themselves that way.
Can't imagine a time before seatbelts were
I
legal.
know. Thanks for aging me. I mean, I always had seatbelts, but whatever. My grandparents didn't. I do remember sitting in my grandparents' car without a seatbelt. You know what I mean? And then they came up with this law because people were not monitoring themselves or, you know, managing themselves well. So that idea of, you know, Facebook or social media going, you're broken up. You know, even our smartphones, it would be amazing if it didn't let us drunk text our ex, you know what I mean? Or call them crying or, you know, because again, there's not ever really something great that comes out of that.
Yeah.
Do you know? But yet we hope for a different outcome.
It's not happening.
No. And then it leads to even deeper despair. You know,
and embarrassment.
Embarrassment because you're getting rejected again. Or, you know, the first thing you do to tell your friends that last night you drank too much wine and you accidentally picked up your phone, and you don't even have to finish the sentence before your friends are like, no, what did you say? You know?
Yeah, it's a powerful pull too. I don't know if it's because I'm like group mom or if I'm the most disciplined person, but I've been handed phones before and be like, don't let me drunk text my ex when I'm at a party.
Yeah.
And then, you know, 2 hours later, it's like, give me my phone back. It's like, no, I don't care what you do. You're not allowed to have this.
See, that's exactly what I meant earlier about knowing, trusting people that love you, that will have their back. And that you probably saved them from so much pain and embarrassment.
I mean, I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, you thought it was funny until they went home and they did it anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then you're just like, oh, man, you know. And it is. And it does not help the healing process at all, you know. So when we're talking about distractions, and this isn't quite a distraction, but reframing or rephrasing the language that you use. So it kind of takes you to a different mental mind spot. Like when you're talking about your breakup to people, and we say things like, that motherfucker cheated on me. You know, like when we're kind of adding all that negative acid to it, it kind of perpetuates and prolongs the pain in it. You know, it's almost like we're breathing life into the yuckiness of it. I'd like to see people start to reframe and rephrase how they're using their language regarding their ex. So it's okay to say, you know, we love the hell out of each other. We had amazing children together, and it was an incredible journey, but our journey ended. Or we just went in different places, and that's okay. That's different than all the negatory stuff around it.
Yeah, I do feel like that. Do you think words are very powerful?
Yeah.
And the emotions that come with them. We talked about needing to let those out earlier. Do you think it's possible to go too far in that direction and create sort of like a emotional bottleneck where like you have all these, you know, negative emotions? Maybe it was a nasty breakup where there was cheating and, oh my God, he's been with this girl the whole time, or oh my God, he cheated on me with my best friend or something, like just worst case scenario, and you are just ready to explode. I feel like not only are finding those calmer words going to be really hard, but is there a place for going scorched earth temporarily?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Like in the beginning when we were talking about talk, but that we want to see the conversation evolve. So hell yeah, there should be. I mean, you should get to say all of it and write all of it and spew and kick and scream and cry and let your feelings be your feelings because they're yours. And, but at some point you want that conversation to take you down a healthier path. So, your partner did all this shitty stuff to you and he was cheating the whole time and all that. And initially you're just like rage and hurt and torn apart and all of that stuff. But eventually it's like, for whatever he was and for whatever he wasn't, in my reality, there were amazing memories. From my perspective, the relationship brought me so much joy. And whatever he had going on. But this is my journey, and I enjoyed this part of it, and I had these kids because of it, or I have this, whatever it is, career because of it, or whatever it is. But that we have to find a place to let it evolve. We can't always keep it in the muck.
You got to move on.
Yeah.
You got to improve not necessarily the view of what happened, but your stance on it.
Yeah.
Just because you say there were happy memories doesn't mean you're letting them off the hook.
Right.
It doesn't mean what they did wasn't terrible. It just means that you have grown as a person and are moving on in a healthy way.
Totally. That's exactly right. And it's okay to say I've never been more devastated in my life. It took me totally by surprise, and it was a very painful experience. But I am now in a healthier place, or now I know that the kind of partner I deserve wouldn't do that to me, which means I've evolved, because now I would only choose partners that would treat me with love and respect and loyalty. And you know what I mean? So even in the pain came some evolution. Essentially what we're talking about is brain plasticity. Where the idea, we used to think that, whatever we experienced was burned in there. But now we know that we can alter those memories. I don't mean change what happened, but alter how we experience them by expanding our thought and our language.
And also to remember, kind of back to being easy on yourself, but also being firm with yourself at the same time. There are going to be good days and bad days with this. Some days you might have great positive outlook where it comes real easy.
Yeah.
You know what? They did what they did. I'm just going to move on with my life. And there might be other days where it's like, what the fuck? Why did they do that?
Yeah.
And that both of those, ideally you'd be in the first example. But the second one might happen and everything in between. And I think that just over time, as you move the majority of those experiences over to the side of healthy growth, then that's a good goal to set.
That's a great goal to set. Absolutely. And that is part of the healing journey. People want it to just be gone. Like, I'm better. I wake up tomorrow. How do I stop thinking about them? But it really is part of this whole journey that we hope that we evolve on. I mean, that's the goal, right? Is to kind of come out better on the other side of it.
Don't be fine too soon.
Yes.
We've all seen the friend that's like, really? You're fine? It was 2 days ago. You go, no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. Really?
Yeah.
And then, 2 tubs of ice cream and
a
few Instagram scrolls later, and they are the mess that they
totally
needed to be for the last 48
totally.
hours.
And I hope that people remember this statement, but that which we resist persists. The longer we resist it, the longer it takes to get through it. That's why I say you get to feel your feels and let yourself go through it. Because if not, I don't know if you've ever met like a woman who talks about her divorce like it just happened yesterday, and then you realize that it was 35 years ago, and she talks about it like it's still happening to her, right? Because there's been a lifetime of resisting the healing process.
There wasn't an acceptance and a moving on.
No. Like, she never let herself go through it. And for some people, it sounds hokey. The healing journey. I get how Southern California and stuff but how else do we heal? It's not like a broken arm where you put a cast and then it takes a certain amount of time and then you're good. Like, our psyche is our psyche. We have to do something.
You need crystals.
Right. Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, you need crystals. So this leads me when I'm thinking about the do's and how to move yourself through it. And even making some decisions about who you are and who you aren't. In my case, I constantly get made fun of for being too trusting. Do you know what I mean? Like for only seeing the glitter in people and not seeing, and then it leads me sometimes into, you know, doing things or choosing people that may not be the healthiest. But I've also decided that part of what I like about myself is that I trust. And that, you know, I don't need to be that trusting, but I also have decided that I'm not going to be trusting. You know, like my friends will say, boy, Christy, I hope you don't just go and easily trust them, you know, but that's kind of part of who I am.
And not to plug one of our previous podcasts, but that kind of reminds me of when we were talking about in a relationship where you got to like play into each other's strengths. You're kind of playing into your own strength of trusting people where, you know, it is a strength, but at the same time, like, it could be also a weakness, you know?
Totally.
But playing into that is what makes you you, and is what led to, again, even in a bad relationship, there were probably happy memories.
Yes.
And I would wager that most of the memories are going to be happy, because if they weren't, then it probably would have ended sooner.
Yes,
You know?
you're exactly right. And by the way, you can definitely plug our podcasts and our courses and our books, because it's good shit, you know. But anyway, that's a side note. What I wanted to say about that, you know, realizing who you are and being okay with some of the things that other people might think are distasteful or whatever it is. But then it leads me to another which is beginning to fantasize about who's next for you. Like in the case where I'm overly trusting, part of that fantasy is that I would choose a partner who is trustworthy. And that I get to be trusting because he is a trustworthy, or she is a trustworthy, depending on what my mood is this week, a person. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the fantasizing about who's next is kind of the fun part, you know?
And is this just like an ideal person, or does this fantasizing about who's next need to come with like putting yourself back in the dating pool?
Oh yeah. Well, first I want to make sure that we've done all the things to heal, because putting yourself out there too soon can be dangerous. It's like, you know, nothing worse than going on a date with someone and all they do is talk about their ex.
Yeah.
Like literally all they do is talk about their ex. And then, you know, you have to decide, like, this is a nice person, but he's clearly not done with her. And
Not ready yet.
You know, it's not, and it's yucky, you know. And I think it's embarrassing for the person who's talking about their ex constantly. So you want to make sure that you go through the process. But I like to write and have my clients write like a wish list. And I have them describe their next partner, their dream partner, to the nth degree. Do you know? And it doesn't mean that all of that is going to, all that manifesting is going to come true and all that. Again, it's very woo-woo. But I also think that we tend to find exactly what we're putting out there. You know, if you're angry and you always feel like people cheat, that's who you're going to find, people who cheat on you. But if you are trying to attract the loyal person that lets you be you, there's a good chance that's who you're going to attract. Do you know? So, yeah, the idea is to really, really be clear about what you're looking for.
And I have a feeling that much in the way where we wanted to keep our language realistic about the previous relationship, you want to keep it realistic about the future relationship. You know, if you break up and you decide, I want to date The Rock.
What's wrong with that? I could date The Rock.
Not, you know, I wouldn't say it's a 0% chance, but like,
Don't burst my bubble.
buying lottery tickets might have better odds, you know? So staying realistic in that, I think, is also probably a guardrail that actually I feel like most people probably wouldn't go too far off in that direction. You know, there's probably some internal sense that you're not going to find some 6'5", blonde hair, blue eyed, trust fund, cool guy who saves puppies for a living
and loves you just the way you are.
Exactly. You know.
But side note, Dwayne, if you're listening to this, you can call me anytime. Just side note, you know. But yeah, so you want to be, yes, realistic, but I also think if it's a wish list, you should write down those things that you really, you know, like just go for it. And then you can kind of, you know, pull back if you need to. But, you know, the next step then would be to go out there and put yourself out there and flirt, you know, make eye contact with people, be social, put yourself in an environment where you would meet The Rock.
Yes. Find his house. Show up in his driveway.
It's in the back of a police car going, but I just had a letter to give him. I just wanted to give him a note.
So it's interesting that you said go out and be social. So it's kind of like the in-between from just keeping it purely your fantasy partner and going out and dating to actively find them. Yeah. Much more just kind of vibing in between and letting yourself slowly transition into that next stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know some people have that saying, what do you say? You can't get over somebody till you're under somebody kind of thing. I mean, a lot of people will have that theory, and I understand that, but I think emotionally and psychologically, you really need to be ready for that. But for some people, it is helpful. I mean, there is the idea of desensitizing, pulling the Band-Aid off, going on. I've had one client who was so afraid to date that we had decided that he was going to do something like 60 dates by a certain time, in his life, and not decide to be with anybody, but just connect with people. Just connect, because he needed to get over that part of the yuckiness and the fear before he could ever let himself totally connect with somebody. So it depends on your circumstance.
What about someone that's kind of on the other end, where they're like, I think I'm ready to date, and they don't realize that there's someone that just falls for people quickly, or they feel like I just need to find the next person right now. You know, and even if it's someone that, if they were in a neutral mindset, this person's nice, maybe I wouldn't date them, but now they're like, I found them, the journey is over. I'm done being single. I'm done being alone.
Yeah. And that's a very common problem. It's why that second marriage, when it's impulsive like that, rarely works. Or by the way, the statistics on marrying the person you had an affair with is like some massive divorce rate.
Don't do it.
Yeah, just don't do it. Well, how about you just don't fucking cheat? But that's besides the point.
A whole podcast on that.
Yeah, we have a whole podcast on that, which is very true. But this idea of, yes, going out there, yes, flirting, yes, swipe left or right?
Right is good. Left
okay,
is
swipe.
Left left is see you later.
Yeah. Oh, see, that makes sense. But so, yes, put yourself out there. But if you're somebody who attaches too soon, then you literally put things in place so that you don't do that. Like, you're going to date for 6 months or a year and not make any relationship decisions.
And then the in-between of those two. Say there's the person that says they're going to date for, 3 months, no commitments, just go on dates. And then maybe a month and a half in, we'll call it right at the halfway mark, they meet someone and they think that they're a good match.
Yeah.
Is it hey, this is too soon, maybe I try and slow this down? Or is it maybe a month and a half was all I needed, maybe I can jump into this?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it could be both, right? And I think that it's up to the person if they're willing to take that risk, and give it a try. Maybe it's that they can find something in between where they take it slow for the next month and a half, and not put all their eggs in that basket so soon, but, be hopefully optimistic, Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about letting go, because that's a do, right? This is easier said than done, and people say, well, if I let go, then we might not get back together, or what if he comes back and I've already let go? But if you let go of somebody and they come back, it doesn't mean that you can't start again or try again.
You found each other for the first time once already.
Yeah. But letting go is hard and scary, but it's so important to truly, truly let go. And that means in every sense. If you are busy punishing somebody and having anger and rage towards them, taking them to court all the time, whatever that might be, you are clearly not focused on the life that you've created or what's in front of you, because you're so busy looking back that you're missing what's in front of you. So let the fuck go. Like, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be. Yeah, maybe, But, and I know that it's easier said than done, but the longer it takes for you to let go, the longer it takes for you to get to enjoy what's in front of you.
Just do my best to not think of Frozen right now, but I am.
Why?
The whole "Let It Go" song. We're talking about jumping into a relationship too quickly, and oh no, it turns out the guy was evil, and You know,
Yeah.
she literally gives people the cold shoulder. She got ice, like there's too much.
Oh, that's
It's just fitting into
Yeah.
all the different pieces we're laying down too.
it is. You know,
too well.
I was thinking of the Bob Newhart, the stop it.
Stop it.
Yeah, you don't want to die buried in a box, you know, like that. Yeah, so stop it. I can't stop calling him. Stop it.
Stop it.
Yeah, I keep looking on his social media. Stop it. You know,
We
put
need
it
a
down.
Bob Newhart AI. Every time you go to drunk text or scroll their social media
Yeah.
or pick up the phone to call them, it just says, stop it.
Jacob, we need one of those for a sound effect.
That'd be pretty good.
That would be so funny. We could have a button that we push and it'd be like, stop it.
There's no way it's copyrighted, right? It's just like a skit that's online.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, right? Or online.
We'll check it out.
Yeah, let's check it out. I love that.
We're going to get a soundboard for the podcast.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, closure rituals. We were talking about this before we started filming. You holding your breath. We were talking about this, about closing rituals, about writing things on a plate about your ex and throwing it. Is that how you described it?
Yeah, it was like, I don't know if it was like their feelings or things about their ex, or if it was just like their ex's name on a plate or something. I don't know. Girls like smashing things, I guess, with markers on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like those smash rooms, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just remember getting mad at my friends. Like, you guys cleaned it up, right? And they're like, no. I was like, you guys didn't clean it up? Like, we did it by the dumpster.
Oh,
I was like,
they
bad.
did. Yeah, bad.
Or
Yeah.
like you see the ones online, they throw it off a balcony. It's like, you don't know who's down there.
Yeah, I was like, think that through. But the idea is to do something that feels like a ritual or closure. I told you about the one client I had. We were at the beach, and she wrote a letter to her ex, and we were going to burn the letter. And so she brought a lighter, and I told her to light the thing, and then I threw it in the garbage can, and went whoosh. I was like, we looked at each other like, oh, like bad idea.
And I thought you would have learned after college.
I know. I don't know what I was thinking, but
Trash cans and fires do not mix.
they go up fast too. I mean, you know,
It's a
anyway.
tinderbox.
Yeah, it's really. So if you're going to do something like that, where you write a letter and burn it or what, be smart about where you're going to, you know.
Whether it's fire, smashing plates, do a little bit of thinking first.
Yeah.
This is a very emotional process, but
Yeah.
you can give it a little bit of.
Yeah, one of the rituals that I actually really like is when you're feeling the yucks, that you get in the shower and you exfoliate to wash it off. You know what I mean? Like to really feel like you're getting it off of you.
If you're a dude who has never exfoliated in his life, can body wash work?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Or you're 3-in-1 to be more realistic.
3-in-1. Oh, I guess that works. As long as it feels ritualistic and you watch it go down the drain, like watch the yucks go, then I feel like then that would work. You know what I mean? And you don't have to pick up a bunch of broken glass or
Light a fire.
light a fire. Yeah. Something less aggressive maybe, you know, but I find it to be really great because it's symbolic and it feels good. You know what I mean? To feel like you're doing that. And by the way, with the shower, it's like a twofer because then you feel really good and clean and exfoliated. So it's like, anyway.
And I feel like the symbolic rituals and things like that, like I know I made fun of crystals earlier because they deserve it.
Yeah.
But if it helps you and you're not like using it to inform your stock investments or something, then I feel like, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
So like if you need to exfoliate or wash yourself or charge your moon rocks or whatever, just because it's not scientifically backed doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
No, not if it feels like it's something that will help, even like planting a garden where you feel like you're planting something new or giving life to something new, whatever that looks like. The other do is to really be okay with enjoying the parts of being single, getting to do the things that you didn't do before, like,
leave the toilet seat up.
Leave the toilet seat up, sleep in the middle of the bed, buy new sex toys that your partner was once intimidated by, or, whatever whatever that is. But there are a ton of benefits for people to get to be like, okay, I get to go to bed on my timeline, or, all the things. I'm buying that puppy because he hated puppies, or whatever it is. The benefits of being single are important to kind of point out.
Yeah, give yourself something to look forward to. Like I know we were talking about looking forward to the next relationship, but sometimes, again, this might be the corniest soundbite of the podcast, but date yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Treat yourself. be happy alone.
Yeah.
Because if you're not happy alone, you're probably not going to be happy with someone.
I could not agree with you more. The idea of having a healthy relationship with yourself, it's impossible to have a healthy relationship with someone else if you don't have it with yourself. You know, people are like, what does that mean, date yourself or have a healthy relationship with yourself? That means that you care for yourself in the same way you would care for the love of your life. You know, that you give yourself that same grace, that you honor all the same things. You know, if fitness is important to you, but you say you don't have time, you make the time because...
Make time, bitch.
Right, that's right, because it's a priority, right? And you're a priority. Okay, so you also want to view your relationship like the past relationship like an outsider. Like, view it like this is what it looked like, this is how it looks like, you know, the direction you're going, so you can kind of get some perspective on it.
Mm-hmm. Kind of pull yourself out of the situation. Try to be more objective about it.
Yeah, and say, okay, what do I see? How am I, you know, how does this look like it's going?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, would you, as a friend, support it, or would you be like, oh no, this is not healthy, you know, what you're doing?
Yeah, I feel like taking a step back and looking outside of yourself, back to yourself, is kind of like playing your own runner's guide, like the blind runner's guide that we were talking about earlier, which could prove to be super useful in your next relationship. You know, if you've identified the patterns that were bad in the last relationship, and you know them, and you go into the next relationship, you can identify those quicker and either A, know that this isn't the person that you're going to date, or B, you can address those problems if you do want to continue that relationship.
Yeah.
You know, usually first-time offenses aren't deal breakers unless it's something big, like don't kill the other person's dog, or don't date, or don't date their sister as well. You know? But if it's something stupid like toilet seat or sleeping in the middle of the bed or whatever you're enjoying when you're single, usually it's not going to be an issue the first time. So being able to identify those patterns quickly gives you just all the power to do what you want in that relationship.
That's right. That's exactly right. And when you know the difference for yourself because you've done the work and you've gone through the healing journey and all that stuff, being able to set your intentions for, like, really for what's next, and even changing your deal breakers. You know, you might have in the past been okay with certain behaviors or certain things, but now you're very clear they don't serve you. And so you set your intentions and kind of renew some of your deal breakers.
So, setting deal breakers. I feel like there is a time window after the last relationship ended where they probably should not be set. You know, it's like, imagine trying to set concrete while it's raining. You might want to wait for a sunny day, you know, or at least some neutral weather. Because if you go, what are your next deal breakers? 36 hours after a breakup, it's like, fuck people with brown hair. They're all monsters. You know, like, you might need to give yourself some time.
I that is such a good point. You're right. Because they have to be realistic too, in that, you know, that you're choosing that deal breaker because it's healthier for you. You know, if you're somebody with abandonment issues, maybe not being with a new partner who ejects every time you have a fight or storms off and out because they can't have conversations and it leads you to feeling rejected, then knowing that you're just not comfortable dating somebody who ejects every time there's a problem.
What about our next do?
Okay. God, I wish I could read your mind on that.
You were just talking about ejecting, and I was doing everything in my power to not say that's what she said, or he said, or they them said, or...
Yeah, you could definitely do that. Okay, the next one is don't isolate.
I think we're on to don'ts.
Oh, we're on
now.
don'ts. Yeah, we just started don'ts. Yeah, don't isolate. That's a big one. We want to. We just want to, and it's okay the first few days. You want to lay in bed and cry and, you know, binge Netflix or whatever it is, binge ice cream, whatever you're going to binge or whatever it is. But when it becomes extended isolation, it's concerning, you know.
It's okay to be alone, but don't isolate. You know, I think that's a very different and more powerful form of being alone.
Yes.
You know, like if you're going to be with yourself and happy with yourself, naturally, you're going to have to be alone and be
Yes.
okay with that.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen your friends in 3 weeks and you're not answering your mom's phone calls
Yes.
or your boss is like, where are you? Then you've probably gone too far.
Totally. And it's a great distinction you made between the two, because there is it is difficult to get used to being alone when you always have somebody with you, so it might be that you need to kind of just be okay with being alone for a minute. And that is different than isolate. The next don't is the don't judge yourself. And this is a hard one, because most people, if they are the ones that got broken up with, or something bad happened, that they say, oh my God, was I not tall enough, skinny enough, rich enough, all the things. Was my dick not big enough? Was it, we go to right away to want to judge ourselves.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing we talked about during the cheating podcast, where people that get cheated on tend to blame themselves. It's, a breakup doesn't require blame.
Right.
Sometimes you grow apart, sometimes there is blame, but it's not on you. Like if there is cheating, or maybe they did poison your cat or something, something crazy. It's like, that was crazy. Right. I couldn't have stopped that or controlled it or seen it coming, because it was just blindsiding. It's not, oh, I must have been a bad cat parent or something that made the cat annoying, that made them want to poison the cat, whatever the situation is. Don't find ways to make it your fault.
Yes. Yeah, and on the flip side of that, though, I also think it's important that people take responsibility, and own, but not punish what they've done. Like if you're somebody who you just took the relationship for granted, and, or you, whatever it is, you spent too much money, whatever, but you did do that, then it's okay to be like, you know what, I took responsibility that I totally took the relationship for granted. I never wanted to have sex with him, so the fact that he went and had sex with somebody else, whatever that is, but then to not punish and judge and beat yourself up about it, that there's a fine balance between taking responsibility and not totally blaming yourself.
And to an even further extent, I know we keep pushing the goalpost a little bit, like, well, don't find blame, but it's actually, it should be, acknowledge your responsibility. Don't beat yourself up. But I feel like a little bit of beating yourself up might be okay.
Yes.
Like if you did do something that you really regret doing, I feel like those emotions come naturally to discourage that kind of behavior in the future. Say you did fuck up and, I don't know, you cheated on them. Why? I would never thought I would do that. I got too drunk at a work conference and something happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you are disgusted with yourself, a little bit of beating yourself up, just don't let it turn it like the don't isolate, but be alone. Don't, destroy yourself, but also acknowledge the fact that not mistakes should be punished, but bad things should be punished. It's not a crime.
Yeah.
Whatever the relationship equivalent of a crime is,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a weird balance, isn't it? Because it's like we want to learn from it, but we don't want to be tortured by it at the same time. It's this weird balance. And how do you know if you're being tortured or if you're being responsible, other than to assess what you're doing with it and how long you're putting yourself through it and all of that stuff.
You really do need those bowling gutter rails.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. You do. And that is, by the way, the best analogy, because that is what it's like to work with a great therapist or a great coach or be close to friends who do that for you. It's a beautiful analogy, Jacob. I love that. I'm going to use it all the time, by the way. Yeah. So the next one is the don't lose faith in people or in love. This is a huge one, because people will make these sweeping statements about all men are cheaters. All men cheat. All guys are fucktards, like whatever it is, or women are, gold diggers, or all of that stuff. It might have been, and people are going to hate this part, your past partner might have been an actual fucktard.
Yeah.
You remaining with your faith in love and in people is so important.
If you don't have hope, then you don't have anything.
Right. To lose faith, and I get it. Initially, we probably do. Like I put my heart into it, and look what happened. But it's kind of that that saying, better to have loved and lost than never loved at all?
I like to go more rocky. You know, it's not about how hard you get hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That sort of deal.
We're so like standard girl and boyish thing. Huh? Okay, the next one is don't overgeneralize, and that's kind of goes with what we were saying. All men are, all women are, you know. And I hear this all the time, you know, that some people do believe all men are this or all women are that, but it's really such an overgeneralization, and it's a dangerous one.
Especially if you're just straight, you know, if you're a girl and you decide that all men are cheaters, you're kind of fucked.
Right.
You know, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, like, other than to say, let's just try women and see, you know, don't judge. Don't judge. You might love it, you know. I mean, like, how do you have an opinion about something you haven't done? Whole different podcast, but yeah, your face turned
And
red.
on our next Definitely Don't.
Yeah, we talked about not stalking their social media. The next one is the driving by their house. Look, I know how hard that is. But again, what do you gain by that experience? You drive by and their car is not there, so you think they're out with somebody, and it's heartbreaking. You drive by and their car is there, and you're wondering what they're doing, if they're crying like you or if they're with somebody in that house. That's
and you
heartbreaking.
get a little piece of mail a couple weeks later with the words restraining order at the top of it.
That's exactly right. And people, you know, we say, I couldn't help myself. I went to their gym. But you can help yourself. And, you know, that is a choice. I mean, like, you know, nobody is driving you to their gym and hiding behind the machines to see if they're there.
That's
you know?
interesting, though. What if you guys met at work?
That is a hard one.
Both in, like, let's say you're both almost a decade into your career.
Yes.
Like, this is your dream job. Not that anyone's dream job would be to go to an office, but
Right.
I don't know, something more fun. What if you're lawyers or something?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? It's like, oh my God, like I'm about to get my name on this firm and
Yeah.
now I'm here. Is it worth leaving?
Right. That is a very painful one. And that's one where really, truly letting yourself go through this healing process is so imperative. You know, because you could see that if you don't, how it would could destroy both of your careers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is also why people say don't shit where you eat, or
Don't eat where you shit.
oh yeah, don't shit. Well, yeah, dyslexic. Yeah, so yeah, that is a hard one. But then I would say for those people who are in that situation, without a doubt, they need to take our breakup course or buy the book, or you know, get some help and some support, because you got to get through it in the healthy, right way to be able to do that. We talked about drunk texting. This is definitely a, you know,
Give your phone to someone.
give your phone to someone. Dude, don't.
Lock it in one of those time-safe thingies.
Yes, it is. It will not do what you're hoping it's going to do. It just won't.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No. And if I had $1 for every time somebody then got blocked, or, you know.
Or worse, say you do go back and you hook up with your ex, how bad are you going to feel the next day?
Yes.
That's like walk of shame squared.
Totally. Especially when you're like, okay, I'll come over and we'll have sex and you'll love me and I'll love you. And in the morning they're like, no, we just, you know, it was just breakup sex. And it's devastating.
There's a song lyric about that. It's like, I know you're talking about the getting over someone, getting under someone else. But I
Yeah.
think the song lyric was like, you'll never get over him if you're under him.
That's
Something like that.
yeah. Well, that's very true. And we're just like, just one last time. No, right?
Don't do it.
No, it's not going to be any different than it was the last 5 years. I mean, like, you know what it's like to have sex with that person. Don't do it.
And the dangerous thing is that breakup sex can be even better. And then, now you're stuck in a time loop of, I hate this person, but I can't stop fucking them.
Yeah.
Now neither one of us are moving on, and odds are it's just going to get nastier and nastier.
Oh, for sure. And it is highly emotional. And, you know, when you're having like makeup or breakup sex, you know, so everyone's present and into it, and you're trying, and so it does feel like an intense experience. You know, it's easy to misinterpret for sure, you know. Wait for a phone call. Don't wait for a text. Don't wait for a phone call. That's a hard one too, because we check our phones. By the way, every time you pick up your phone, even when you know that they haven't texted you, there are little releases of dopamine. So it feels like it satisfies something even though it's not a healthy satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But do be aware that you are getting those little bursts of dopamine.
You're programming yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, we become addicted to that feeling of checking. Don't make threats,
That is an important one.
right? I mean, that I
Don't act
personally
on any
yeah, don't
threats to
act
an
on.
even
I've
further extent.
experienced that one. Yeah, where the person goes off the deep end and threatens everything.
Do not break a front door.
No, don't break a front door. Don't fucking get in the car and go to the X. The X is X. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just like shameful, and makes you look like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't try to guilt them into getting back together with you. We have this one a lot. Don't pretend you're having a heart attack or guilt them like.
Don't say you're gonna kill yourself
Yeah.
if they leave.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we've seen that with our friends, both of us. You know.
And just on news stories. You know, like especially young relationships.
Yep.
And like teenage years and whatnot. That unfortunately it does happen, but at the same time, it's like that's not up to you. Just in the same way, it's not necessarily your fault if the relationship ended or if they cheated. Once you're done, you're done. They are their own person. They're responsible for themselves. Like
That's right.
and that is also on you. If you feel like those are the emotions you're feeling, it is your responsibility not to put that on the other person.
Yes.
Whether you feel like you're gonna kill yourself if you don't get back with that person. Probably not. Have a sandwich, jerk off, take
Yeah,
a nap,
that's
and
right,
I bet
that's
you'll
right.
be feeling much better in a solid 90 minutes.
That's true because emotions are just fluid. They change and people feel like they're never going to not feel that, But you're bringing up a really good point about, we lie to ourselves. Like I couldn't break up with him because he would always threaten to kill himself. So you enable and keep it going for who? For what? Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it is a part where it's like we're adults. We are responsible for ourselves, and you staying because you're buying into that bullshit, that somehow you being there is going to keep them alive.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. There was one on our list. Oh, this one is important. And this is a hard one because we are animal lovers. Splitting custody of your pets.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I have lots of clients that do this, and then they start fighting because he said he was going to drop off the dog at 3 and he showed up at 4 with his new girlfriend and I don't want some new girl sleeping with this dog and like honest to God.
Mm-hmm.
It is a hard one though. I get it.
Yeah, I feel like we do love our dogs, but do you love that dog so much that you're going to perpetually torture yourself by forcing interaction with your ex?
Right.
I mean, granted, maybe it's not torturing yourself. Maybe you're hoping that, like, I'm going to be such a good co-dog parent that I'm going to win her back or something even sillier.
Yeah.
As much as it hurts to say, like, you probably just need to move on from the dog.
Yeah.
Much in the same way that you're moving on from the partner.
Yeah.
You might need your own breakup process.
Yeah, no, it's true because it's rare that anything good comes of that, and it just prolongs the pain and the and especially because at some point one of you is going to move on sooner.
Yeah.
And then it's a whole other set of painful experiences that you're putting yourself through. And it is a hard one because we do love our dogs, but the next one is keeping pictures of them on the walls.
Ooh.
Yeah, or in frames.
Feels a little Netflix docu-series, find a torso in the basement kind of deal.
It does. Especially when it's like you see that they have them on their screensaver.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, you gotta cleanse, you gotta purge. You know what I mean?
You could acknowledge the happy memories, but
right.
keeping them up on the wall is probably there for a different reason.
Yeah.
Even if you say, even you're telling yourself, oh no, I really enjoyed that vacation to Yellowstone or something.
Yeah.
Even if you did, keeping the picture of you guys up on the wall instead of like a picture of the forest or the mountain says more.
Yeah. What about this one? This is a hard one. Lots of people have naked pictures of their ex on their phones, or sex videos, or just even videos of or pictures of them together. And they don't want to delete all of those, and they watch them, and they, boy, I say you got to purge them.
That post-nut clarity is going to hit you like a freight train.
Yes, it is. And oh God, and it's torture. I would say, yes, I know you looked good in that picture, but delete it.
Yeah, and I think it is okay to acknowledge they looked good, that memory was happy.
Yeah.
You may even acknowledge that you want to keep them. Like, I wish I, could still look at these. But it's like the same thing earlier when we were making the distinguishment between treating yourself and taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to keep that picture, but that's not taking care of yourself.
No.
That's treating yourself, and,
Yeah. That's
can't have
right.
cake every day.
No, and when you end up in a new relationship, that new partner is not going to want you to have those videos or pictures on your phone anyway.
Yeah, that would be a pretty big deal breaker.
Yeah.
If you catch your partner
Masturbating
to their ex. Ooh, that is
Yep, I had that one in my
fuck
office.
moment.
Yeah.
You might need a priest for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, a padded room, because it's, for sure. That's a hard one. So yes, delete that stuff. Even though, that's what we were talking about. Let it go. Quit it. Stop it. Close it down. How about relying on your ex for support? No can do.
Yeah, that's...
I
think that one is one you have to take care of beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
right? Have a support structure that is complex and broad enough to the point where if any single point is lost, it's going to hurt, whether you lose your best friend or a parent or your partner. It's going to suck, but you still have enough support to get through any single event.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Even financial support, like, oh, I live in his house, or, none of that. Yeah, you've got to really cut those ties, Well, how about trying to remain friends? Don't do it.
Like back to the lottery thing, you're probably better off buying lottery tickets.
You know what? The Rock and I would be great together. He would really like me.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
And being friendly and being friends, I think, are two completely different things.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you guys do work together or something.
Yeah.
If you've both moved on and you get to be friendly, like that is
Yeah.
dream scenario, great. You can both move on, but don't go to a barbecue with them, because
Right.
eventually something's going to stir back up.
Right. Yeah. Well, so, this is a hard one, because I am friends with a lot of my exes, like from college and stuff like that. And, but it took years and years and years and years, and those relationships are special. However, a new partner might not appreciate that. And so there has to be a boundary.
Well, and I think there's also a difference between like friends, like maybe you guys talk once a month or something, or, around the holidays. So like, oh, I kind of remembered it's his birthday. Like, hope you're doing well. Like, that's one thing, but like actively hanging out still, it's kind of the same thing that we keep talking about, where it's like, you can tell yourself like, we're just trying to be friends, be friendly, but there's probably a deeper reason.
Yeah.
There's probably still some longing, some, I wish something might happen, or who knows, maybe, if it happens, it happens. Like, don't trick yourself into not moving on because you're doing the quote unquote right thing by being friendly.
And you hear things like, no, I really love his new girlfriend. She's really nice. We're going to be really good friends. It's like, oh, I get that. But again, I think your point of being friendly is very good compared to, being friends. How about the getting even, or don't sue your ex over stupid stuff?
Or don't fuck their best friend.
Yes.
Yep. That is just going to create more problems in the world. And we've got enough of those. We don't need that.
No, and there's plenty of people to fuck. You don't really have
and
to.
Plenty of people to sue.
On. Yeah, I know, it's sue. Yeah. I know. Yeah, and that's the part of the getting even thing.
It might feel good for exactly a quarter of a second, maybe.
Yeah.
If it's prolonged.
Yes.
And then after that, it is just chaos and bad juju,
Yep.
and negative energy, and
Yeah.
all the crystals lose their charge, and it was so much work to get them there in the first place, and oh no, now what are we going to do? It's not
God.
worth it.
That's exactly right. No, it's just not. It's just not. When you think about that, again, if you're looking at it as an outsider and you're watching it, is that something you're proud of? I mean,
It's not something you'd put on your resume.
no, not, like, let's be honest. How about holding on to their belongings or listening to your song?
Ooh, that is. I think it's kind of the same thing as with the pictures on the wall.
Yeah.
If you're hanging on to their belongings, if you are like a truly decent person, you have like one of two options.
Yeah.
You give them a text, and it's like, I have your stuff, and you give them a time or date, or you figure out a time or date, or if you do know where they live, put it in a box and leave it on their doorstep.
Yeah.
They'll know it's theirs.
Yes, for
You know?
sure. Absolutely. And so it brings me to the last of these kind of do's and the don'ts. But I have a rule of no contact, right? There has to be a boundary. And, you get to decide how long that is. But, like, I would say 6 months, 8 months, not 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, a rule of no contact, no texting, no calling. Do not say, oh, I needed to give him this bill. It came in. What if he doesn't know he needs to pay this bill? No. No contact.
Yeah, if he really needs it, whether it's a bill or something, if you put it back in the return box, they'll figure out he's moved.
That's
'Cause
right.
People move,
Yep, and don't use the dogs or the kids or to contact them,
Keep that number blocked.
Yeah. I would absolutely say, I would even say take it out of your phone. If you need to
Yeah.
write it down on a piece of paper, his number or her number, give it to a friend and take all of it out of your phone, because there has to be a time where you're focusing on yourself and you're not focusing on them. No contact. And in our book and in our course, we have like how to live by the no contact rule in great detail.
It's hard to move forward when you're looking backward.
Yeah.
Like move on. Don't follow them on social media. Don't, like you said, don't use the kid, the pet, the belongings, whatever was shared.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself like that a time, whether it's like, I don't know if everyone does this, but if you're sad, like, I'm gonna let myself cry for 10 minutes. You set a timer. Wah, 10 minutes is up. Okay. Time to keep moving forward.
That's exactly right.
Like,
Yeah.
Let yourself go through this process. And it's like in 3 months, I am going to get out of here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And by the way, this also applies for the person who like was the breaker of the relationship, like, the person that breaks up. If you've broken up with somebody and you want to go on social media and heart all their stuff, I want you to think about how cruel that is.
Yeah, that is borderline sadism.
Yeah, it's really just, and they say, no, it's just, I want her to know I still care. No.
That's even worse.
Yeah, it's really, it's cruel and it's self-serving. So don't lie to yourself. Don't tell yourself that you're doing this because, it's the right thing. Whatever it is, like it's cruel.
Yeah, we keep going back to this. Don't trick yourself into doing something that deep down you want to do under the guise of it being the right thing to do.
Yes.
You got to be honest with yourself, realistic with yourself, and you have to simultaneously be kind and firm
Yes.
with yourself.
That's exactly right. Like, come from a place of love and warmth, but strength.
Mm-hmm.
And if you slip up, we're human. We do that all the time. 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps. Then you dust the dirt off. You forgive yourself, and you start new.
Mm-hmm.
The try. Sometimes that's the best we've got, is the try.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for that try.
Yeah.
So that's our do's and definitely don'ts. And for more of it, please take our course or buy the book, or call us with any questions. But it's good shit.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. For more information or to submit a question, go to our website, lifesauce.com. That's life-sauce.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media. Thanks for joining us.